One. Okay. Welcome back, everybody, to session 505 of Gauntlet Comics Fellowship, The Eyes of the Underlord. We are back for our final session here to see if we can, see if the Fellowship can stop me, the Overlord, from gaining a foothold in the Dwarven capital of the First Founding and claiming the teleportal, time travel, dimension hopping technology of the dwarves. And we are playing this as an arranged game through Gauntlet Hangouts. If you're curious about Gauntlet Hangouts or the Gauntlet in general, you can visit gauntlet-rpg.com. The Gauntlet is a great group of people who get together, play games, and do other fun stuff related to games, and generally have a good time together. So visit us at gauntlet-rpg.com, check out our games, sign up and play with us, join the Patreon, and we look forward to seeing you. To start things off, again, reintroductions. I'll start with me. I'm Chris. I go by he, him pronouns, and I'll be facilitating this game and playing the Overlord, the big bad of Fellowship. The Overlord that I'm playing is called Palinduan the Broken. He is a big, monstrous, semi-robot thing. Like we've never, I think only one or two of you have actually seen him. And he looks like a big, giant robot made of junk. He does really bad stuff. He has violated the laws of physics to convert like entire bodies of water into this weird resiny stasis substance. And whenever his army moves, he uses the army of the Overlord called the Scourge, which taints and corrupts any land or any life that it touches. Like, it's bad news, and it spreads. It's some sort of like vague industrial technological pollution. Like it ruins farmlands. It causes animals to sicken and change. Like, it's bad news. And so that's my end of things. And we'll go sort of counterclockwise on my screen, which will make no sense to anybody else, but and let folks introduce themselves, their characters they're playing, and if they have any other projects or anything going on they'd like to talk about and plug, please feel free to do so. We'll go with Kyle. Introduce yourself and your character, please.
I'm Kyle. Kyle, he, him, playing Regina Firewheel. She, her, the dwarf. Yeah.
Okay, and going counterclockwise through my screen again in order that nobody can see but me, we'll go to Bethany. Could you introduce yourself and your character?
Hi, I'm Bethany. They, them. I'm playing Odell Underwood, the Squire, who is a random person from the surface who got lost down here and has decided to stick around and has kind of gotten themselves hired as a guide for the Fellowship.
Cool. Do you have any other projects or anything you'd like to plug while we're here?
Yeah, I have a couple games up on itch.io, and I'm on Twitter, although it's not so much a plug as I'm there. I exist. At Bethany Harvey for both.
Okay. Next on my counterclockwise list, Alexi.
Hey, I'm Alexi, he, him. You can follow all my gaming endeavors online at Cloven Pine Games. So check out Cloven Pine Games on Twitter, or check out my store at Cloven Pine Games on itch.io, where I've got a number of games available for free, or in the case of my paid games, at a steep discount in this difficult season when you might want to be downloading some games. I am playing in this series of Fellowship Dapperdo Axebreaker. He is the orc. And in this world, orcs are fungal warriors created long ago by the mushroom scientists. Orcs are strong. Orcs are tough. Orcs, serve no masters. They shake their fists in righteous fury against the undermoon, which is not to be trusted. And in Dapperdo's case, they create axes all the time out of anything, and use those when the situation arises.
Am I next?
Hi, yes, sorry, Pearl.
Okay. Hello, I'm Pearl. She and her pronouns. Uh, I'm bookending this series due to every circumstance, and I'm kind of working on a thing. It's like a hack of another game though, so I feel weird talking about it. But it's about trashy romance novels, and it is fun and trashy. I'm on Twitter as She Breaks Gates, and I think that's it for me as a person. Stay safe. Wash your hands, everybody.
Okay, and let's see, you were playing Hamfast Cobbles, the halfling.
Oh, right. I forgot. Character intros. Yes, Hamfast Cobbles, the halfling. Very excited to be part of the team, although I've missed many of our adventures because in our first adventure, I led a rainbow rampage, which, if you're not aware, is a very large herd of rainbow striped capybaras in an attempt to get in the way of a giant cybernetically enhanced wolf, I think, that serves the Overlord. But unfortunately, they just kept running even after the threat was neutralized. So I've been running in front of a bunch of capybaras for a while now, getting tired. Looking forward to hopefully meeting up with the rest of the team and not leading the Rainbow Rampage anymore. But, you know, just a fun little trickster who gets in trouble now and again.
Okay, all right, and when last we saw our fellowship, they were in the Dwarven capital of First Founding. They had discovered some of the machinations of the Overlord. They had gotten involved in a bar fight that went south really, really quickly with somebody pulling some sort of super science blaster, ray gun, something that caused one of those nasty like Overlord corruption wounds. And that was scary. They did, and I think when we are opening up, we are coming to the realization that the Overlord's General Sarcoides, the mushroom scientist, is ready to present to the Council Emeritus of the Great University in an attempt to convince them to trade with the Overlord with regards to the dwarves' portal technology, and the Overlord offering to give them access to his technology. And I think you guys were coming up with a plan to deal with that. We do have a couple of things to hit before we roll straight into that, which is number one. I'll point out again, because it's been a while since I've really discussed these, that we do operate with safety tools in this game. In particular, I created a lines and veils sheet, which is on our Roll20 site for this particular game, that lists the lines and veils that each of the players has contributed and I have contributed to, saying the things that we'd like to see, like to not see in the game, and things that if they do appear in the game, that they happen off screen so that we don't bring them to the forefront of the game or the story itself. And we are also, in the interest of making sure that we keep everyone safe and having a good time, we are also employing the X card, which means that anybody can at any point call an X card and ask that some element that we've encountered be removed from the game, and no explanation needed. The only question that I may ask is just to make sure which things I need to get rid of, and then we will get rid of those things and continue on from there so that everybody can continue to have a good time. All right. So I think that being said, we are all in First Founding. I have one command lore question, which Odell the Squire, I think, is in the best position to answer. Odell, you have a bond with Livia, the university's liaison that they gave to the fellowship in order for the fellowship to, get what they needed on the university grounds, get your housing set up, request anything that you needed to make your stay as comfortable as possible. And Livia also has a tie with one of the members of the Council Emeritus, which is a group that runs the great university and makes decisions on the university's directions of research and things like that. And she, as a graduate student, effectively, a journeyman, has some sort of connection with one of those people on that list. And Odell, I'd like you to tell me what that connection is, whether it's a familial connection, a mentor-mentee connection. What's going on with Livia, and to whom does she have this connection that might prove useful?
She, let's see. She was raised by Vespiana Rockshaker for part of her childhood.
Now, was Vespiana like a relative or just a third-party caregiver?
I think a friend of her parents.
Okay, I will make a note as a stat on Vespiana's sheet so that we know that that's something that happened. Okay. All right, I've made that note, and so after what happened at the end of last session, with I think the close of the session had Dapperdew chasing down the person who shot the pistol at Odell and dealing with them in a very orcish fashion, and then I think Dapperdew were returning to the university to meet back up with the your remaining fellows. And I think this is probably a good point as you guys are all regathering for Hamfast to finally catch up. So we'll kind of bring that in as you guys are meeting back up at your house at your residential tower on the university grounds, and you can kind of if I'll ask again, kind of each of you to sort of give a detail of what we're seeing from your character as you all are gathering again, maybe in like in the common area of your little tower, and what we see from each of the characters. And again, I'll go in my sort of counterclockwise order on my screen, which will let me have go to Kyle. And once we do that, we'll need to establish one bond for Hamfast and Dapperdew, because I think Hamfast still hasn't had a bond with Dapperdew forged yet. So we'll come to that once we get through kind of defining where we first see everybody when the camera pans back to our fellowship. Kyle, what do we see from Regina?
Probably like sorting their belongings. Like I'm assuming it's been a while since they've been home, so they're like stocking up on supplies, piece parts, and just stowing everything in their pockets. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, there's very few places in the world of Commandeer to get a hold of dwarven spare parts. Like I get the impression that the dwarves don't share out that stuff all that regularly, based on what we've seen before. But would that be correct?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Bethany, what do we see from Odell as everybody's gathering? You managed to get that nasty wound sort of treated from last time.
Yeah, it's no longer necrotic.
So that's good. What else do we see now?
Yeah, I think man, I've taken so much damage. So like no longer necrotic. That is a huge improvement. But I think Odell is still moving kind of slowly and carefully because like I both blood and grace are still damaged. I think let's see. You know what? I don't have a lot in the way of weapons. No, I really don't. I have a spear. That's it. So I think Odell is gonna try to make or procure a weapon, something that can be used at a distance.
Okay. Well, I think you're in a unique position to do that because I think the dwarves are really the only folks in this subterranean realm of Comdir that actually have anything approaching modern technology from the surface world.
Mm-hmm.
So you might actually be able to purchase something like a pistol or something, or a taser or something like that. And we can kind of narrate that a little bit once we kind of get everybody's introduction. And that can be going on in the background, and then we'll come back around to that and see exactly what you're able to get. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I think at this point, like Odell is just asking Regina for advice. Like, okay, so where do I get a pistol? Tired of being shot at and not being able to defend myself.
Yeah, the pointy stick is really cool most of the time, but against the pistol. Okay. Let's see. Alexi, what do we see from Dapperdo as he approaches the residential tower?
Yeah, I think Dapperdo is kind of tromping back, Princess in tow. Princess being my undead wolf companion that appears to be sort of a wolf skeleton animated by fungal growths. And I'm like, kind of patting Princess on the head, saying, "Good girl. All right, now to present the evidence of this mushroom scientist's treachery and get the dwarves on the right side." And I'm, with a great deal of confidence, striding in to share with the rest of the fellowship that I discovered these strange purplish spores on the gun dwarf that I chased down and executed. And I think we can turn the tide and turn the tables even on good old Sarcoides.
Okay. All right. And let's see. I think we finally catch up with Hamfast. You managed to discover the fellowship's course back to first founding, and I think you've finally managed to catch up to them at their residential tower on the university grounds. They're in one of the guest towers because this university has guest towers, and that's pretty awesome. Thank you for that, Kyle. So what do we see from Hamfast as Hamfast and Ruru are gathering back with the fellowship?
I was actually thinking that I might stop on the way and use my address book, which is filled with family friends, to see if we might have a family friend around here who could help in our, chatting with people.
So when we see Hamfast is like going through this little notebook, and like is throwing names out to everybody as possible people to talk to.
I guess. I mean, it says that I have a friend in any town I go to, and I can have a bond with them.
Okay.
So it feels like having a friend around here might be good given the circumstances.
Okay. Well, we have on the Roll20 site, I've created a list of important NPCs, quotes, with basically including names of members of that Council Emeritus that the Overlord's General is going to present his case to tomorrow. And any of those names, you're welcome to pick one of those, or if you have an idea of somebody else you'd like to create to forge a bond with, we can do that too. What do you think Hamfast would like to do here?
I think it would be good to know one of the counselors, right?
Sure. Who on that list do you think you have a connection to, and what would that connection be? What's the sentence that forms your bond?
I think it's Vespiana Rockshaker.
Okay.
Which, we've had some good rock shaking times together. And the bond is that, as we all know, members of my family have, for generations, always carried good pipe leaf and occasionally elven wine. And whenever we pass through the area, after having met them, randomly in the way that halflings meet people when they travel, which we rarely do except for me, but still. We always are happy to give a little beef and have a little fun.
I can see that there's nobody that's going to turn down good pipe leaf.
And so they're just always happy to see us and down to, get together when
Okay.
I'm around.
All right. Just I would maybe put the bond as shares halfling leaf with Vespiana Rock Shaker. That should do. That'll get you that extra bond with her, and I'll make a note of that.
The key bit being that they're always willing to meet up because of said pipe leaf. You can't get it unless you hang out, which means if we want to call on her to hang out with us, I can tempt her with my pipe leaf and she will come, I think.
Yep, that's what the bond means. You get to command lore about your relationship, so that will definitely work. Yes, I think so. I think in the chat, Dapper Dew had asked if Vespiana was the one who raised Olivia, and I think yes. So you've got kind of a dual approach. So I think you've got a good shot. You've got a very good shot of convincing Vespiana based on those two possible bonds to work with you. So you've got a two-pronged approach with her.
Excellent.
Okay, and let's see. All right, now we've kind of gotten snapshots of all of you. We're going to move back around to, I think, Odell, so that she indicated that she was going, or they indicated they were going to talk with Regina about what they could do to obtain some sort of firearm, taser, some sort of ranged weapon that wasn't just a stick to throw. So, Odell, Regina, how do you think that would work out? Because you're in a place where you can get one. I mean, this is the best place in this entire world to get a hold of some crazy pistol. What do you think you're able to do or create here?
I would think I could just, hand over a spare one.
That would make things easy.
Sure. Sure. You get a standard issue dwarven. They're not muskets. They're actually rifles, I think, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it's. I think did we establish what dwarven technology kind of looks like? Sort of pre-industrial a little bit. Like it. They look sort of artisanal, but basically every one of these things has a little personal touch on them. Like none of them just look like they came off the assembly line, right?
Yes.
So, Odell, go to you and see what do you think the personal touch was that this particular rifle has that makes it special?
It has it has some writing of some kind, engraved in the barrel, and I can't read it. I hope it's not, a curse or something, but yeah, if it is, oh well. In fact, I think I'll ask Regina, hey, what's this say?
I have large repositories of precious metals.
Okay. Is that like a name or something? Or
No, I think someone was just boasting.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, I'll be sure to let people know I have large repositories of precious metals. Don't want to let the let the dwarf weapon makers down.
So I have a question, and Regina, this is kind of a command lore to you. Is that some sort of some sort of common boast? Is that your the boasting equivalent of a mom joke from teenagers or something? How is that, or is it something that's unusual and you had to think about it a minute to figure out what they were trying to say with those little runic inscriptions?
Probably a little unusual because I guess we focus less on greed, less greed for regular things and more like greed for knowledge and like artifacts and stuff.
Okay, so it's like, so someone who did this was probably someone who did like a little bit of old school smithing work. Like they were really interested in having access to precious metals and things.
Sure.
Maybe? Okay. All right. So you got this rifle with the fancy runic inscriptions on it. All right. So what? Let's have you guys. There's not really a long journey mechanic, but we're going to kind of make use of that idea, and have each of you kind of in turn talk about and describe what you're contributing to preparing for this, for basically butting into this council meeting through your various channels, and what things you think will be the best things to bring to bear as an argument against this general. And I know Dapperdew had some things that they wanted to share, so we'll kind of go in reverse order, since Dapperdew, I think, has a really poignant thing to bring to bear, and then go sort of around in the opposite direction, clockwise on my screen. So Dapperdew, what do you think you have to share with the Fellowship about how to deal with this?
Yeah, I think while Odell and Regina are examining this gun, like the door like slams open and Dapperdew is there, and he says, "I took care of the gun dwarf, but he was infested with these." And then I'm like, "Princess, show him." And like Princess like rears up, and like in like the chest cavity of this skeletal fungal wolf, there's this like weird like kind of green fungal orb, and I like tap on it, and a little kind of filmy screen opens up in it. Like it's still fungus, but now it's see-through, and you can see like kind of honestly like moving around inside, like they're like themselves agitated, this little swarm of these purple spores. And I'm like, "Look, the mushroom scientist, he infected that dwarf to make him do his bidding. He's not negotiating and in good faith. We need to reveal his perfidy to the dwarves and turn this thing around. Get your people to stand and fight against the Overlord, Regina."
Yes, I'll take this news straight to them. This is a great revelation.
Okay. Let's see. Hamfast, what you've revealed your connection with a member of the Council Emeritus now, correct?
I don't know if I've told everyone yet. My thought was that you would hear sort of a just outside the door, like goo goo gajoob, and then a roo 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 roo, and we would sort of burst in and be like, "Hello, chums! It's been a bit."
Then let's have that happen and see, and so that goes. So I guess right after sort of the princess scene with the see-through fungus chamber and the spores, I think you have that sort of clumping up the stairs as Ruru runs up, and then I guess Hamfast sort of springs into the room, basically.
Well, so Ruru would run in, and then I would sort of, in small form, jump out of his little tankard where I have my chair, and then spring into like my regular full-size form.
"Ah, Hamfast, you've returned. I thought
Indeed.
you were busy partying with your polychromatic capybara friends."
No, I just, they get into a mentality, and it's a bit hard to shake them.
Well, you're back just in time.
I'm very happy to see you all. What news? Anyone?
We have a pet rhino now. I got shot. we saved the I don't remember the tree temple, but the tree temple.
Yes,
all-
the Sylvan
that's about it.
Sapphire of Rhinum. And we resurrected a number of my comrades in arms to defend it against the Overlord's plots, so they're not going to be taking that sapphire anytime soon.
Well, it sounds like you've got things completely under control. I was thinking I would need to sweep in and help, but I did just get in touch with my friend here, Vespiana Rockshaker, and maybe I'll just go have some pipeweed if you all
No.
don't need me.
Wait. We've gotten to a point that we actually, you are the perfect person to do this.
Yeah, everything
that
would
so?
be under control if it weren't that the dwarves were so easily suborned by the Overlord's minions.
Well, perhaps we should talk to Vespiana together then.
Depardieu like slightly glares at Regina as he says that.
So, Regina, what is your reaction to Depardieu's like poking with these little jibes?
Well, he's got a point. I expected the dwarfs to do better too.
Well, the saving grace you have is that it looks like maybe this emissary is kind of cheating. So that might bode well for bode well or maybe poorly for your ability to convince people. Depends on how
Well,
many people.
Vespiana is usually, I would think, a little bit more influenceable once she's had the pipe leaf. You know what I mean?
No. Okay, so it sounds like you have at least one suggestion to meet with Vespiana Rockshaker. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to address, kind of here in the, in your residential tower, before we kind of shift the camera over a little bit to see how this meeting with Vespiana Rockshaker goes?
Do they have a pet relief area? Rururu's been really quite busy for the last long while with the rampage.
I think they have like it's not a courtyard because this is a tower, but it's got a fenced-in area in the back where the mecha rhino has been grazing. I think. Sound reasonable?
Probably good to introduce them all to the creepy fungus thing and the rhino and the dog. We wouldn't want them getting into any shenanigans while we were convincing Vespiana to whatever we're convincing her.
Oh, Princess loves Ruru.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. No, Princess is a good girl. She's very friendly with other dogs.
Well, I'm sure that Ruru loves her right back then.
Yeah. The rhino's still getting used to everybody, especially Depardieu, because Depardieu did put an axe in its head. But now, Steelhorn.
Sometimes that's how you make friends.
Well, no lasting damage done. Steelhorn just sort of ran right through that. So,
Can't really hold a grudge if it didn't do any damage. It'd be bad for him.
No, it's a rhino. It can hold grudges for a long time.
That's true.
But
In any case.
But I'm sure that nothing unusual will happen with these three animals together in a strange city that could happen as a result of somebody rolling 6 or less. Surely.
Absolutely not.
Surely that will never occur. Okay, so I think we're ready to shift over to see how this meeting with Vespiana goes. Hamfast, since you've got this sort of in with the pipe leaf, how do you think the introduction goes? Obviously, you've been to Vespiana's residence before. Does she have a residence on the university where you meet with her, or does she have like a townhome or something in the city itself?
I mean, I was thinking we would meet in some sort of tavern if it's legal to smoke pipe leaf in public, although I don't know if it is. But
let's ask Regina. Is mildly mind-altering intoxicants a legal thing to partake in public in First Founding?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Is it? Do you think it's analogous to something like old school barroom smoking sort of thing? Like everybody can do it, or do they say, okay, you got to go over here to the smoking room?
It's probably everywhere, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. All
I
right.
mean,
So,
I would think that halfling pipe weed itself would be rare, but like maybe just people are smoking whatever dwarves. Wait, dwarves? Is that right?
Yeah. That sounds good.
okay. So, who wants to name this bar? Let's go. We've had some stuff from Regina. We've had something from Hamfast. Odell, what do you think the name of this bar is?
Uh, I'm trying to think of a piece of equipment you would use in distilling, because dwarves are super into like the equipment used to make stuff. But my brain is going blank of like, okay, what would you use to make liquor?
A barrel?
Maybe like like a spigot or to make liquor. Oh no, that's something used to pour it.
Barrels, hops.
I mean, a spigot would work, I think. Yeah, like, you know, the brass spigot.
Okay, the brass spigot. Okay, you guys, you all come to the brass spigot. Hamfast is actually leading the way because this is apparently the tavern that they usually meet at to smoke a little, drink a little, and chat.
Yeah.
So we come into this tavern. Dapperdew, what about this tavern says that it's a lower key establishment than the one you guys visited the last time?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say maybe it's like right across the street from the Busted Tankard, but like it's kind of clearly the cheaper option between the two, such that like the Busted Tankard has it's like specials on tap, up, and then across the street the Brass Spigot just has beer, right, and then like some lower denomination of currency listed for the cost of it, but it's clearly less fancy than what the Busted Tankard is has on tap.
Gotcha. Okay. So, despite the strangely offset names, like the Brass Spigot is actually the lower tier establishment. The Busted Tankard is the fancier one, and the Brass Spigot is the lower tier. I kind of like that. Like maybe that being across the street from the Busted Tankard, like we need to class this name up a bit because otherwise nobody's going to come in here, kind of thing. So okay, so you come in and they've got their house brand of beer, and let's see, Regina, what how is the seating set up in here? Is it kind of like the other place with old work tables, or is it something different?
Yeah, old work tables sounds good. Probably older, more beat up, more stained, that sort of thing. Tables.
Okay. Hamfast, describe Vespiana Rockshaker for us. Like she's an old friend of yours. For reference, I think we've established so far that dwarves are basically regular-sized humans. They're just from an alternate timeline. And that's where they get their weird technology stuff. So, tell us what Vespiana Rockshaker looks like.
I think she wears clothes that are sort of understatedly elegant but comfortable because she likes to have a time. So like, skirt and blouse that like are loose but like flattering and comfortable, and maybe like a scarf. But you could tell if she needed to dance, they wouldn't hold her back. You know what I mean? Like good choice for moving in between settings. Because she is a counselor or something. What are they?
Counselor
Emeritus.
Yeah.
She is a counselor emeritus, but she also likes to have a nice time, which is how she knows Hamfast. And long hair that also likes to sort of, she can shake it around when she dances or put it up in a severe updo if she needs to look impressive. She's good at the like appearance version of code switching, if you will. equipped for many an environment.
Okay, and I think you when you enter the brass spigot, I think she has claimed your regular table.
So yeah, I think like sometimes we would visit at her house, but I'm not going to bring a whole menagerie, including a rhino. So our secondary meeting place here, I'm on Roo, and we gallop over, and I spring off onto the wooden bench that she's sitting on. And if I stand on the bench, I'm the right height to give her a hug, since I am a bit small. And I just greet her with a happy grin because I am genuinely happy to see her and give her a big hug. Vespiana, these are my friends. I don't know if you know any of them. Maybe you do. Regina, maybe?
She says, I think I recognize Regina from some of my classes. And we all know that, all of the council knows that the fellowship has arrived at the university. We voted to provide them with one of the residential towers to use while they're here.
Oh, how kind of you. I was otherwise occupied at the time, so I'm afraid I'm a bit behind, but can we join you for a drink? Maybe I can tempt you with some pipe leaf.
Oh, you do know my vices. But yes, everyone sit down. She waves you over. I do have a question, just so I know. Ruru pretty much always is there, and I think
Yes.
the tavern owner kind of knows that and doesn't raise any concerns about that. I don't get the impression that any of the other animal buddies came along.
Okay.
Did the rhino or princess come to the bar?
Princess is parked outside,
Okay.
but I think the rhino we left back there just because it is pretty big.
It's pretty big, Regina. What's your decision as far as the rhino? That is your animal buddy. Did Steelhorn come with, or did they happily graze in the backyard of the tower?
I think I left her grazing just because I don't want to. I mean, I might be throwing out some explosions or something. I don't want to have a panicked rhino in the mix.
Sounds perfectly reasonable. Okay. And I think Vespiana says, "Well, I'm glad to see you, Handfast, and I'm certainly glad to meet each of you." And I think she extends her hand first to Regina because she does remember you vaguely from some of the classes, although it's been a while. She shakes your hand. She offers a hand to Odell. Odell, do you take her hand?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I've heard many things about your adventures. Word, even without the technology of the surface world, word travels quickly down here when it comes to heroics. So we've heard of your triumph in Rhino, and it has definitely impressed many and given us all like some inspiration in dealing with all of the goings on here.
Yes, Odell is truly a gift from the Overmoon to us all.
And you is here, and see, I think she nods and looks especially pleased. And this is something that's been unusual for you, I think, Dapper, since you came here. Like, she looks especially pleased with you. I think she does research in the equivalent of anthropology for the university. Like, she is, for lack of a better word, she's the university's people person. Meaning she studies people. Not that she's particularly good with people or is super political or anything, but she studies people. And she in particular is really interested in the orcs. She's learned a lot, I think, from Handfast over their various meetings about the halflings. She knows a good bit about the dwarves because she's a dwarf, but she's especially fascinated I think she's like, yeah, she's sort of chatting back and forth with Hamfast and with Odell and some with Regina. I think she keeps pulling back around to trying to get details and sort of picking at you about like the details of the overmoon undermoon dichotomy and how the undersun figures in versus the oversun and what all of these things, how all of these things sort of work. And that's sort of going on in the background throughout the conversation.
Yeah, I'm very happy to explain. Of course, like yes, the the overmoon is beneficent, and someday we will find it once more. The undermoon, of course, is not to be trusted. The undersun, it really matters very little, and the oversun, well, that is a great mystery.
And she's you get the impression like if she had that she really wishes she would have brought a notebook. But she sort of settles settles in and she says, so tell me, I know you have to have heard about Sarkoidy's presentation to the council tomorrow. Could you I'm sure you have concerns given the reason for the forming of the fellowship was to try and deal with the overlord. What are your thoughts on Sarkoidy's and Alinduan's purpose here? Like what? I mean, this seems a bit too easy of an offer to me, but I think I could I could definitely do with your perspectives. So who'd like to kind of start off the address, and we'll sort of go on a round table and let each of you sort of put in what you think would you could highlight for her to convince her, and then we'll kind of come around and we'll one of you can decide to maybe make the talk sense roll or something, whatever move turns out to be the right one to do based on the information I think you guys can present to her.
I'm not sure when the best time to do this or bring this up would be, but when I give someone pipeweed, it allows me to speak softly to them as though I rolled a 7 to 9.
Well, I think we could start off with that because she's definitely partaking of the pipeweed, and that may be a perfect setup for some of the other things.
That's kind of what I was thinking, because I don't know as much about what to tell her as everyone else, but I could ask her some questions that could make her maybe more malleable or more convincible. Or
I definitely think the pipeweed helps.
So I get 3 questions, and 1 might not be helpful.
Okay. So which of those 3 do you think you want to list, or you think you want answers to?
What can they tell us about what they think the council's inclinations are already, and the general opinion about the
Sarkoides.
Yes, that.
I think as she's smoking and she's sipping at the alcohol, but she's really, dipping deep into the pipeweed, because you get the impression like she doesn't get this very often, just when you come to town. So like she is seriously partaking of the weed, and she is just sort of, if she wasn't as eloquent as she is, and as good at talking as she is, this would be babbling. But she's used to university lecturing, and that's the kind of tone you get. Even though she's a little bit high with the pipeweed, she's really kind of laying it out for you, very particularly. She's like, okay, well, honestly, a lot of the council is still a big question mark to me. Like I've tried to talk to a few of them just to kind of gauge where things are going. Octavia so far is the only one that I'm sure of, and I'm sure she opposes it. But the others, I'll get one answer from them one day, and then I might get an entirely different thought from them the next. It's like whenever we speak, whenever any of us, any of them like get more information about what the Overlord is offering from this general. It's like they're hearing exactly what they want to hear. I've been reluctant to meet with this general or to do anything else directly until the council makes its decision. But
Smart move.
and I think she turns to you and sort of raises an eyebrow. But let's get those other two questions here, and let's see where this goes.
What should I be wary of, and by I mean really the team, when dealing with them?
Okay. Now the them in that question would be the person you're speaking to, which is Vespiana.
Oh, right, not the actual council.
Right, and that's a perfectly legitimate question, and I think what she's describing and what you've been told by Dapperdew, I think you would really need to worry if Sarcoides or any or if she has any direct interaction with Sarcoides or maybe even receives anything from Sarcoides, you might have to worry about her vote, because that seems to be the direction things are going in. Like,
okay,
you should be wary of her having any direct interaction, one-on-one or maybe small group with Sarcoides, or receiving anything from Sarcoides.
okay. I'm going to put to the group, I don't know how I would have done this in the game, but hopefully it's okay, whether I should ask what do they want and how we could help them get it, or what would they have us do next. Those are similar questions, and I have trouble deciding between things that are similar.
Well, I think that's easily
ask
work out.
what she wants.
Okay, so what does she want, and how could we help her get it?
Oh, okay. Whew.
Because that's what I heard in the responses.
Okay. I think the sort of things are kind of going around the table, and sort of this sort of easygoing, like everybody's drinking and maybe smoking a little bit for those who would, and at her heart, and in her heart of hearts, she's got this sort of this anthropology slash the equivalent of anthropology for down here, and she really wants to understand how this she wants to understand how all of these disparate cultures work together in this realm. Like, that's her field of study, but in particular, she wants to know more about how the Overlord made the inroads that they have. Like, what did they, it hasn't been all military conquest. They haven't just rolled through and just smashed everybody. They've smashed a few. They directly assaulted the orcs, but no one's really sure exactly what convinced the mushroom scientists to join up with them. Until then, the mushroom scientists kind of held themselves away from everybody else, at least down here for a while, after that whole fiasco in World War II. So nobody's really sure what the Overlord's been offering to others. And Sarcoides hasn't been forthcoming about that either. Because, so if that's something she wants to know, and it's an entirely academic concern for her. Like, you get the impression that right now, when as she's in her right mind, she is not remotely interested in trading the Overlord anything for the teleportal technology. She considers that to be highly disadvantageous to the dwarves in particular, and to the entire realm in general. Like, that's something she's generally against, but she just has that academic curiosity that she really want to have satisfied. So if you were able to offer her any of that sort of knowledge that you're able to glean, she would be really, really interested.
Excellent. So now that I've sort of gotten her to open up, I leave it to my comrades to use their knowledge of the situation to continue the conversation.
Let's move to Regina now. Regina, you have you've got the inroad with her from the university. How do you think you're approaching things with providing her with the information and sort of nudging her in the right direction?
I'm just going to make the case that the portal technology is simply too important. There's nothing he could give us that would be worth, our ultimate escape route. That, worst comes to worst, if only we have the portal tech, we could still run away. Again.
Okay, so you're moving with straightforward self-interest there. Okay, all right. Odell, what do you think you could bring to the table as part of this discussion to sort of move things toward the way that they really should go?
I describe what we saw at Rhinum, and like this is kind of a counterproductive thing to say, but like they're asking for this, but they'll just attack you if to get it. They're not dealing in good faith. They have no intention of making this a fair trade. They're going to take what they want, and if you fight back or try to keep them from it, there's still most of an army left.
Okay. Now, when you are describing Rhinam, do you mean that weird corruption stuff you guys encountered, or the army attack, or just all of it?
Yeah, kind of all of it. But yeah, actually, the forest turned into crystal is certainly a thing that would probably get her attention. An attack is bad enough, but it's something that they can defend against, where this ability to turn an entire forest into crystal and presumably also your entire city, that's a new and different threat.
Okay. All right. Thank you on that one. Dapperdew, I know you want to convey what you discovered. I don't think you want to bring Princess in here and have her do that sort of weird fungus trick in the middle of a bar. But how do you relay the information that you've got?
Yeah, so I think that kind of Dapperdew has had one of those mugs of the otherwise unnamed beer being served here at the Brass Spigot, and has sipped on it a little bit, and then when kind of the table turns to him, he takes one little bite out of the mug, spits it back into the mug, and puts it down. So there's a mix of kind of chewed up ceramics and washed up beer at the bottom of the mug, and then he says, "The mushroom scientist isn't just using his eloquence; he's infecting people." And Dapperdew pulls from a little pouch a single one of these purple spores that he's clearly collected from Princess, and drops the spore on to the mix of things in the bottom of this beer mug, and the spore hits it and immediately multiplies, and you see little fuzzy purple stuff there kind of sprouting right in this small little terrarium he's essentially created on the countertop. And he says, "I found these all over. A dwarf that took a pot shot at Odell," and I point to probably actually just poke at where Odell's injury is, and they maybe wince a little bit at that. But yeah, I'm just trying to demonstrate what we discovered at the bar fight the other day.
Okay, I think I think her, it takes a second or two for that part to sink in, like exactly what you're telling her. And I think her once it does, I think her eyes widen a little bit. She says, "Oh, oh." And she covers her. She just like, covers her mouth as she, make just. You can tell like this thing is sort of like washing over her now. Before there was just this sort of academic interest in what you guys were saying and thinking about your arguments. And now like you've moved into the realm of like explaining a lot of the things she's observed. And I think you guys have got her where you need her to be. So you've got, from where you are, I think you moved into 2 solid votes on your side out of the council. Okay. And I think we've gone roughly an hour now, so I think this is a good time to kind of take our break. And when we come back, I'd like to sort of move into the actual setting things up for the council meeting. If you guys are ready for that, or if you're not quite ready for that yet, you want to set up a few more things, we can do that too as the lead up to that. But I think the next big spotlight is going to be how you guys handle that council.
I think I've got basically one role I want to make before we go into the council, but otherwise I'm happy to, cut right over to that.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything else they want to address? Okay. If anything comes to you over the break, just let me know. I think we'll take a 10-minute break here. We'll come back at 9:27. Okay, we're back. And Alexi, you mentioned that Dapperdo had a role that you'd like to make before we start to get into the nitty-gritty of setting up for the council meeting.
Yeah. Can we posit, for the sake of argument, that Nestor Firebreak is the dwarf that Vespiana says seems most inclined towards the Overlord and his emissary and their emissary Sarcoides.
I think we can do that. The Overlord. I will add that as a stat to his NPC sheet so that if we have need of it, maybe we can damage it or do something else.
Yeah, maybe. So I think like Nestor is coming back to his office crammed with books and beakers at the university, and then opens the door, and then kind of sitting in the chair with his huge orc feet up on the dwarf's desk is Dapperdo. And Dapperdo is like, all right, Nestor, is it?
And I think you see Nestor initially he is he's angry that someone has entered his office without permission because he's that kind of guy. And so he starts what do you think you're doing? And then he realizes as you put your feet up there, exactly who and what he's dealing with. And then he sort of shrinks sort of back into his little, he was sort of bowing up a little, and then he just deflates a little back into his scholarly robes.
Yeah, and Dapperdo continues up. He says, listen up, fleshy one. I think it'd be wise if you took a little unplanned sabbatical, starting now, and made yourself scarce from the negotiations tomorrow.
Okay, and I think he sort of blinks.
I want to use my move here, or actually use a piece of gear technically called Scary as Hell, which is the reason the orcs chose me as their representative. And I can spend uses of it to talk sense whether they want to listen or not, and I can roll plus blood instead of another stat.
All right. So what what do you think you do to sort of accentuate the scary as hell thing? Like, obviously you're huge and sort of intimidating just for that, but what in particular makes you just enough to just curdle the blood in this poor dwarf as you sort of sit before him at his desk?
I think I'm casually kind of picking my teeth with like, you know, a medium-sized axe, right? And then like, you know, kind of like just sort of speculatively just chomp on a piece of the axe and swallow it. And then like see him looking and like hold the axe out slightly, like, oh, you want to taste it, right? And you know, and like, no, it's not overtly menacing, but you do hear the like, you know, crunch as like the metal is just, you know, destroyed in my orcish maw.
So what type of metal is it, just for effect on this guy? Like, is it like, you know, is it that rusty iron that we'd seen before? Is this like some good steel you found at some point?
It's like okay steel, because this is one of the axes I made out of the scraps from the dwarvish workshop that Livia had so generously brought to us.
Okay, all right. Well, let's see you make that roll, and let's see how well this goes.
All right, so I get to roll with blood to, and I suppose neither hope nor despair.
No, not at this stage.
That's fair.
That's
I have
10.
rolled a 10.
Woo. Okay. So, talk sense on a 10 plus. All right. So, all right. Okay. I think probably the most reasonable way this would have gone normally would have been you were trying to impress upon him the how good of an idea it is for him to not interfere.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So we'll kind of you don't have to owe him any kind of favors. He's not asking for anything back, and I think he looks like he like looks around and he nods slowly. And I think he whispers, like as he's leaving, he won't like this. He won't like this at all.
That's all right. And like as Nestor goes, Dapper just like grabs a piece of paper from Nestor's desk and like scrawls, you know, fairly you know, big orcish handwriting, on sabbatical, and then like, you know, as he leaves, just like pins that up with like a small axe on the door of Nestor's office.
Okay. All right. Surely that won't come back to bite you at all later. Sure. Okay.
No, it was totally successful.
Oh no. That's what I'm saying. Like if somebody else blows it, like somebody will misinterpret that axe.
It's like a little axe, clearly just serving as a pin.
Okay. Little tiny. I just find it adorable that you're carrying around a little tiny axe. Like we've seen the big ones, like lots of big ones. I just love it that you have like a little tiny one. Just
you never know when you need a really small axe.
Okay, so Nestor is out. So let me damage Nestor's stats, so we'll know that he is out. Okay. All right. Now we've seen what Dapperdew has taken it upon himself to do to set things up for the council meeting. So let's go around. Regina, you've made contact with your great grandmother already. You know where she is and where she stands on this. Who else do you think Regina might try to make a connection with?
Um, I guess probably Peleus Wayfinder. Have we said anything about him yet?
We have not. So what's your previous connection to Peleus? Is he like a former professor? Was he a colleague on a particular study you did at some point? What's his story?
Uh, Probably like a old rival of my grandma, I guess.
Okay, we'll mark that down here. Rival. Okay, so would he be enough? It sounds like he would be enough of a rival to where if Octavia voted one way, he might push the other just to be in opposition to whatever she's doing.
Sounds good.
That sound right? Okay. So you're coming in on this one, and you've got an uphill battle with him apparently because he knows whose great grandkid you are. So what tack are you taking when you encounter him? Where do you go to talk to him first?
I think I'm gonna go to his office, I guess.
Okay. All right. So you find him in his office. What what sort of research did he do that put him in your great grandmother's bad graces?
I don't know, steam engines or something. Maybe he like designs the engines that I guess like power those locomotives.
Okay, so he's doing he's doing steam research, and what did he and your grandmother throw down about that turned everything sour?
Funding probably. Like he wanted research for or funding for his research. She had it like bookmarked for some other stuff, and it just a simple funding squabble.
Okay, so this is just bad blood. It's not like they disagreed on some point of scholarship. It's just she was in charge of funding at one point, and she elected to fund some other study and not his. That sort of thing. It's petty, basically.
Yes.
Okay. All right. You come in, and I think he raises up and says, "I'm busy. I'll come." And then he sees who it is, and he raises an eyebrow. Regina. To what do
Peleus.
to what do I owe the pleasure?
I've come to talk to you about the council.
Your grandmother sent you, I guess.
No, she doesn't know I'm here, and she'll honestly probably be annoyed when she finds out.
Oh. You see you have more of his interest. You mentioned annoying your grandmother, so he perks up a little. So why would your great grandmother be upset with you coming to talk to me? Are you here to agree with me? I know, I've heard how interested you've been in what the Overlord's been up to, and how they were able to do what they did with the lake. Are you here to join my side here? We could do great things with this technology. It is unprecedented.
I'm here to convince you that it's in your own interest to switch sides.
Ooh. And he leans back and he says, "Well, I'd love to hear how you think you're going to do that."
All right. Well, first things, I just want to point out that I was over with the elves a little bit ago, and they were just sitting on a tear in the fabric of reality. It's powering their big tree. It's something like the Undersun. It's big, and it was just there. And if that's what we stumbled across in a day, they probably have other deeper secrets buried further. So, I mean, the Overlord has managed to get basically everyone else down here to ally against them. Sooner or later, someone's going to dig up some tool that'll take them out. It's just going to happen. Even if we ally with them, we're just going to back the losing horse and we're going to end up suffering.
Well, and he like leans forward and says, well, I can see what you're saying there, but I'd point out that the only reason that Rhinoon was able to survive the Overlord's attention was the fact that you and the Fellowship intervened. Like, Rhinoon didn't join the Fellowship. Rhinoon didn't contribute anything. They simply stayed in their little kingdom and their little forest like they always do, and they were perfectly happy to let the rest of us stew. They didn't do anything. I mean, their queen was one of the greatest heroes of the surface world. She fought in their great war years ago. I mean, we've all heard those stories. They spread them around enough. What would we care if why would that matter? They would never have shared that knowledge or power with us had you not come in and basically forced their hand with it. You literally took control of that temple, the way I heard it. They were about to have their doors knocked in by some monster or other that the Overlord had sent. There was nothing they were going to be able to do, and then you intervened.
It's easy to say that now, but we don't know what they would have done if their backs were really against the wall. And it's irrelevant, really, because I'm not asking you to sacrifice for the common good. I'm asking you to make a lot of money for the common good.
All right, so I think we're getting into the realm where we're looking at making a roll, and it sounds like you're talking sense to him.
I think so, yeah.
And the impression I'm getting, and you tell me if you're going for a different way, is you're appealing to his desires, which is more funding for his research in particular, which would mean that you would normally roll that move with wisdom. Do you have any other moves from the dwarf playbook that would put you in a situation where you could roll that talk sense with a different stat?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So you'd be the way it sounds like you'd be rolling with wisdom. But do you see yourself like doing anything other than appealing directly to his desire for money? Would you be trying to dazzle or trick him, or detail a plan and their place in it?
I was going to detail a plan, like if we use this opportunity to form like an alliance against the Overlord. That'll be new research that he'll get to have a peek at, new trade networks, which will put more funding towards his projects. I mean, if we're doing like trade and transportation and stuff, we'll need better engines.
Okay, so you're laying out like a big, broad plan of action here.
Yeah.
This is more than just the money. The money was just kind of to get his interest, like to make him stop and listen for a second. Was that kind of what you were going for?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that part of it. That's okay. All right. So in that case, since you're detailing a plan and detailing how he would fit into it, and you're also kind of to get that inroad to make him willing to listen to you, you offer the money. So I think you'd roll plus sense, and let's see how that goes. That does not look good. That looks like a 6.
That's a 6, yeah.
Okay. All right. So on a 6 or less with talk sense, the other party, in this case Peleus, chooses one of two options. They either cannot do as you ask, and we'll tell you why, or the favor you must do them is expensive, difficult, or demeaning. Oh, I think I know what he wants. I think I know what he wants. He says, he leans forward and he says, that's a lot of what ifs. And the biggest what if I think you've left there is, what if that terrifying colossus of an overlord shows up at first founding and just stomps through the gates like he did in the Orc City, and just bashes us to bits. So what you're laying out to me sounds really good on paper, but it's ignoring that. Now, I know this, we may just be delaying the inevitable, whatever we do. And I like the idea of us keeping our portal technology safe for us, because when it comes right down to it, like, that is for us. That's our tech. We've never shared that with anyone. The only offer I could see on the table that was worth sharing it for was the Overlord, who has similarly amazing technology to share. But I could see shifting my vote in this instance, or withholding my vote. But I want Octavia to publish a retraction of her last article that countermanded my research into the hyperdynamics of the rail system. I want a public retraction. If this is so important, then that should be easy.
You'll get one.
Good. If Octavia herself brings that to me at the council meeting, you'll have my vote.
All right.
And that's his especially odious demand. Like, he will go with you, but no, we'll see how that goes with great grandma. Okay, that seems like a good place to shift the spotlight. Is that okay with you, Regina? Okay. All right. So let's move to Odell. I think your meeting with Vespiana kind of gave you a rundown of who the counselors are. So you know who you can meet, who's around, and who you can meet with. And of course, you've got a connection with Livia, who can escort you around as needed. Who do you think Odell would try to approach? And we can set that situation up.
Yeah, so I don't really have any special knowledge. I'm not super intimidating.
But you are really good at making friends.
Yeah, okay, that's true. That is true. Who do I want to try to appeal to their better nature?
See, so far we've had Peleus Wayfinder, we've had Vespiana Rockshaker, and we've had Nestor Firebreak, and of course we got Octavia already. So okay. Those are the ones that have already been dealt with in some way, shape, or form.
Okay, I'll talk to Juliana Svargazer.
Okay. All right. See, where do you think Livia takes you to meet with them?
So I probably asked her specifically for, like, who do you think is kind of undecided? because I don't really have any special insider knowledge, and also I'm not super intimidating. Like, making friends with somebody might sway them if they're undecided, but it's not going to make them just completely change their mind.
Okay. I think she,
Um,
yeah, I think Livia mentions that name to you and says they've been, Julianus has been a little quiet on the subject. He's attended the past meetings where the council has broached this idea, but he's never said anything one way or the other, and nobody's been able to actually get a particular stance out of him. And I'm thinking of a good way to a good thing to make him study, that would make him reluctant to take any real stance. I think it's philosophy.
okay.
He loves to. He's a talker, but he doesn't really say a whole lot. Kind of philosophy.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, that sounds like a person I could talk to. Yeah. So let's see, where would a person like that hang out? Sorry, I was reading the chat and it makes no sense to me, so I don't know why I was bothering.
Yeah, I kind of got lost there too. I was like, it's a reference I missed. But so we know this guy is a philosophy scholar. So maybe he's like sitting in a courtyard, just looking out into the sky, or what passes for sky down here. It's really weird.
Yeah, what does the sky look like here?
I think we established that it vaguely looks like a surface sky, but
Okay.
It's got odd colors. Like, the undersun still looks kind of like a sun. The undermoon still kind of looks like a moon, but there's
But it
obvious
is
differences.
not to be trusted.
Yes, that's why I said it kind of looks like it, but you can tell it's not, because the colors are strange and weird and
Okay.
and a little off-putting.
Okay. Cool. I think I have an approach then. I will walk up to him and kind of look up along with them and say the sky is it's similar to the surface sky, but it's so much more colorful. The surface sky is it's blue or gray mostly. Occasionally other colors briefly when the sun's setting.
Nice.
I wonder why that is.
And I think he sort of nods, and he's like he's gazing up. He looks over and he notices, and I think I'll say he recognizes who you are, because everybody knows the fellowship is in town, and I think even though the dwarves kind of look human, I think they don't look like surface. They don't have quite the look of a surface person. They're recognizably different.
Okay.
So he says, you are the companion of Regina Firewheel. You were involved in that situation with Rhinoom. Oh, I'm interested with this question. I mean, obviously, I look at the sky a lot because, where we come from, like our legends, our old tales of the land where we began. Our skies were gray and soot-stained, blacks and grays and other smoky colors that were unwholesome. Like, that's why we left. So I like the color. I agree that this weird sort of color palette that the sky has here is definitely preferable to a blue or a gray. Particularly preferable to a gray. Definitely better than a gray.
There have been places on the surface my surface, I guess, where certain cities have had skies like that, but not the whole world.
No. Yes, your world has seen its own share of wars. We've we have learned what we could from travelers like yourselves and and through other means that we've had. But I'm sure you didn't really come here to discuss the sky, as beautiful as it is. What?
No, but I am here to discuss war.
Now we come to it. Yes, we are on a precipice here, aren't we?
We are. You've heard what happened at Rhinum, and have you heard what happened outside Rhinum? With the forest turned to crystal.
I heard of them, and had we not already had confirmed reports of what the Overlord did to the lake, I honestly would have discounted them as hysteria, but I know now that they're not.
Yeah. I think whatever happened to your world to turn the sky brown is not that different from what the Overlord would like to do to this world.
Indeed, and then we come to the question: what would we accomplish with our vote, one way or the other? The Overlord moves. The Overlord acts. They build or ruin, depending on, I suppose, which side of that line you stand on. I certainly don't look forward. As intriguing as a crystal tree sounds, I don't look forward to a forest of them. But,
No.
But would our vote make a difference, or will the Overlord simply smash us if we vote in a way that the Overlord does not agree with? Maybe, is this simply, would whatever vote we do simply buy us time?
I think voting against the Overlord buys time, by us, by the Fellowship time, by you all time to prepare. Voting for the Overlord invites them in right now.
That's an interesting argument. I think, voting for the Overlord would cast aside the pretense and take it as an open invitation to enter.
Your city would make a wonderful headquarters for a tyrant interested in technology.
It is what drew the Overlord's attention. And Odell, I think at this point we're looking at either talk sense or speak softly. I think both of those are appropriate given the way this conversation has gone with them. Which direction do you think you're leaning in? The speak softly kind of gets you more information about them, but to actually convince them, I think you'd need to talk sense.
I think I'm talking sense. Like I started out by I'm trying to do it from an angle where I'm sympathetic to him because there's nothing I've said that isn't true or that I don't believe, but I think at the root I'm talking sense.
Okay, so let's. It seems like you're basically It sounds like you're kind of laying out the situation as you see it. It's kind of like the closest thing I can see on here is to detail a plan and tell them their place in it. I think he's willing to listen, so you get across that hurdle. So I think you would roll plus sense.
Okay. Yay, something that's not damaged. And I still failed.
Oh, goodness. Oh. All right, so I think he turns back, and we discussed kind of last time with the talk sense. The other party in the conversation, in this case, Julianus, says he looks at you and he says, the argument is good. We have our histories tell us of an awful war and how it can break a world and shatter it beyond all hope of recovery. We know this, but I think I don't see any way for us to hold against the Overlord with the resources we have. What will the only hope that we have is to make them at least believe that we're giving them something that they want. It would be wonderful if we could give them something that they think is what they want, without actually giving them the thing that they need.
That could be ideal.
It could be, but you see, in my position, I think it would only be appropriate for me to vote in favor of giving the Overlord something. If the Fellowship could offer some sort of alternative to that, something that the Overlord might think is what they want, but is in actuality something that they decidedly would not want if they understood it. And basically, he's giving you kind of the thing the thing he thinks you need to do to get him to work with you is to come up with some stalling mechanism beyond just saying no to the Overlord, because he's worried about the direct consequences of that. And he's proposing, if the Fellowship has some way to fake the Overlord out, maybe something like that.
Yeah,
that's his best idea, and that's a pretty tall order. Faking out the Overlord. So that's why it's a big mess. So he might still have his vote if you guys can figure out some way to come up with an idea to basically put one over on the Overlord, instead of just voting no.
Oh, I like this.
So,
This is very much, this is Odell's jam. Like, instead of fighting directly, do something, sabotage it. Not that Odell has any direct experience with sabotaging anything.
no, of course not. Nobody could prove any of that.
No.
So I think unless you got something else you'd like to do with him, I think that's a good place to shift the spotlight a little. And let's see what Handfast. As in, I think you've got a connection with one of the voters already, and she can introduce you to anyone else you'd like to talk to on that list. Who else would Handfast like to try and talk to and make a connection with?
I mean, probably whoever she is closest with, right? Like, I might ask her who else on the council, is like a friend with hers outside of it,
Okay.
because
Hmm.
friendliness is also one of my purviews, and like I don't really have a lot other than pipeweed in the ways of persuasiveness.
Okay.
So
I think we've got two names left to or three names left, excuse me. Oh wait, no, four total. Okay, we've got Luciana Windshear,
okay.
Fabian Starfall, Gaius Spark Seeker, and Quintilis Flameright. Which of those do you think she has a connection with? It can be any of the four.
Quintilis Flameright,
Okay,
we'll say.
all right. And what do you think she takes you to meet with him? Office, courtyard, cafeteria, bar.
Maybe just her house if it's not with the whole group this time.
Okay.
Right, just like a dinner type low key thing. I have one more thing of pipeweed that is possible to be offered if it comes to it. But just, like I've sort of emphasized I don't want it to be a big deal, but it would be cool to meet other people on the council.
Okay.
So she's like, "Oh, come by for dinner, and I'll invite Quintilis," sort of thing.
Oh yeah, that's pretty straightforward and easy, and that's something I think that's a social thing that I think the professors do occasionally. So I think that works out. So I think he comes over for like a brunch the day of the meeting. Like the meeting's going to be like that afternoon. And he comes in, and I think when you arrive, like I think he's already there, and he's sort of like munching on these small little biscuits.
Yeah.
And he rises, and Vespiana introduces you. And what do you think Quintilis is a professor of? What do you think he's studying?
Chemistry.
Okay. All right. So when you see him, he looks like he's come from a lab. He's got this little lab frock on, and we established that the Dwarven University has a building where they do actual experiments because their things tend to blow up when they experiment on them. So they keep those in a separate building. And then you can, I think when you see him, like it's obvious he's been in the experimental building earlier that day, because
Okay.
his eyebrows have a little bit of like a scorched look to them, like they've been especially like dried out, and I think you can tell like the bottom part of his little goatee has been singed.
Okay.
And he says, "Oh, this is your friend, Vespiana, Hamfast Couples, the of the fellowship. It's so good to meet you." And I think he does that sort of enthusiastic double handshake, and his hands have like that sort of sticky sugary syrupy sauce that they were putting on the biscuits. So it's a little messy, but like he's very enthusiastic and very glad to meet you, and he immediately wants to talk about all the various qualities of halfling alcohols and liquors, and exactly how they get that strange taste.
Well, it sounds like I don't need to rely on friendly face to have him treat me as a friend. It sounds like he's already in a good place, so that's good. And I'm always happy to chat about libations and things, so that works out well. So I think ideally in my mind, what happens here is I don't rush into any talk of like the affairs at hand, because I'd like to indulge him a bit, in his interests. And then before I do, and I don't know if I should roll for this or you should just narrate it, or I'd like to say, since you're so interested, I have a little bit more pipe weed with me and I could give it to you to study. And that's like my way of like really trying to amp up the friendly vibe. Like we're already very friendly, but now I'm offering him something.
Well, the pipe weed will certainly get you your, I'll because of his particular interest. And because that's what he likes.
Chemistry.
Yeah, it gets you an in. He's definitely willing to listen to you now if you wanted to talk sense. And I think because you're offering him the pipe weed, we'll say sharing the pipe weed, you'll get that effect from sharing the pipe weed.
Great.
So you can activate the move. I think that lets you ask some speak softly questions, if I recall.
It does. Which I have in my notebook. At least I thought I did. I do. So, what can they tell us about their feelings on how the meeting might go? And how they're feeling, you know, in general, like that topic. What can they tell us?
Oh, he's really I mean, you can tell he's really interested in what the Overlord does, like the chemical processes that goes on with the Overlords, like resin stuff. So he's probably way more interested in that than he probably should safely be. But he's enthusiastic about learning more about it because he thinks he's a little bit unconcerned with the obvious like overriding threat. He's not as concerned about that as he probably should be. He really wants to learn about the chemical properties of this stuff, and but he's a little disappointed because he doesn't necessarily think it's going to go his way. There's way too many people that have been sort of undecided in this situation. People that have been like they're heavy, they're the heavies on both sides. Like you've got, you had Nestor. Nestor was like Nestor and Peleus, I think were both kind of definitely leaning in the Overlord's direction, but like. But nobody ever really seems to know what the heck. Nobody ever really seems to have a good feel on what Julianus is going to do. I'm pretty sure that I think Vespiana is leaning against it, even though like I've tried to describe to her how amazing the science we could perform with the understanding of what the Overlord is doing with this like stasis resin. But I mean, we haven't been able to get any, I haven't been able to get any real feel out of Gaius or Julianus. I suspect Fabian the Chancellor will probably, if it comes to a tie, I think he would probably break the tie with agreeing with the sharing of the technology, but everything else is still way too far up to grabs. I mean, we just don't have that. And yes, you're right, Dapperdew in the chat. Nestor's not there, but they don't know that yet. He doesn't know that yet because this all happened sort of in a simultaneous time zone here. Like you got, each of you are talking to your respective targets, so that's what he thinks. He's worried that it might not go the way he wants it to, but the way he wants it to go
the wrong way.
Yeah, that was he wants it to go the wrong way for the Fellowship because like he's really interested in finding that stuff out, and you get the impression that the conflict part hasn't really sunk in with him yet. Like his thought process hasn't gone to that direction. Like it hasn't even shifted to point in that direction. He's like, oh, I could learn so much if I had access to this kind of thing.
Okay. So I sort of already know what they want. So I'm not going to ask that question.
Mhm.
And there isn't a like, how can I get you to question like there is in some games. What?
Well, there is like a speak softly question about what do they want and how could you help them get it.
That's true.
But I mean, I think you kind of,
I mean, we know what he wants, but like, would asking that, because he's the one who would have to answer. So like, how to help him get it? He wouldn't necessarily know a non getting other people to agree with him way to get it, would he?
well, he might be able to get it from the way he talks about it. Like,
Hmm.
I think if you ask that, I mean, let's say that's your
I'll
second
just go
question.
ahead and ask that.
Well, you get, he wants to know, like, if he was able to get access to something that created that resin, or use that resin, that might satisfy him, and he would say, well, why do we need to worry about trading technology now? We already have I already have what I need.
Okay.
So if you could get him that, like, that might satisfy him, and he might be willing to sway his vote in the direction that you and the fellowship want him to go.
That is good information to have. I guess the last question I'll ask then is, what should I be wary of when dealing with them?
He is. I think you've got. We're getting ready to do that now. He wants. I think you've got to be wary that if somebody makes him an offer that hits his science button harder than what you are offering him, he would lean their way very quickly and very easily. Okay.
That seems accurate. Yes.
Yeah. And I think we're in a position to basically hit the council room. I think you've got your votes lined up, and let's do a tally on the votes you know. And Deputy, I'm pretty sure that you would have picked that up. Like, no question in my mind that you would have taken that out of his jacket.
So Hamfest, if you want, we can say that that we've got the Fellowship has got this gun that managed to do that weird resin effect when the gun dwarf pulled it on us in the bar fight.
I will definitely note that to Quintilis, and that that I think it would be just a lovely day of possibly explosion-y, resin-y adventures if we could look at it together, and I'd be happy to convince my friends to bring it to his office.
Okay, you got that. I think you've got it. Roll me a quick talk sense to him. You're appealing to his desires, so I think you could roll plus wisdom if you wanted to make it that, or you could try to roll plus sense. Either way.
Why can't I ever figure out how to use Roll20 to do the thing?
So there should be a little die symbol beside your stats. Looks like a little film reel or a six-sided dice that's rolled a 6. If you click on that, it should roll that stat.
Where?
Let's see.
Have you got your character sheet open in Roll20?
Oh, character sheet. No, I didn't have it open. I opened it to look at it when I am looking something up, but I don't leave it open all that. Okay, so character sheet,
Mm-hmm.
and then the dice.
You roll plus wisdom.
Okay. Finding dice plus wisdom. Neither hope nor despair, right?
Yep. Oh. Okay, that shows up as a 4. Okay.
Really?
Whew. All right. Yeah. So I think
Such a good offer.
I don't know. He looks at the gun and he's really happy, but he's like, "Oh, this offers me something, but this cartridge is exhausted." Like, and he shows you the cartridge is empty. Oh, it's so close. And he just shrugs. It's like, and that's I think that's the hard frame on that. And then we get into the council meeting, and I think we have a big, like, just a hard shift here. And I think we're going to see you've got sort of the way the council is set up. You don't have, people have already had their assigned seats for years in this council chamber. So there's not really a one side or the other. Everybody's sitting next to people that they're disagreeing with all the time. And that seems to be the way this is going. Like, you have people like arguing with the person sitting next to them. You have people arguing across, and sitting in the guest at the guest table in this sort of auditorium. You have like the chancellor's bench, which is up in the center, kind of in this U, counselor's bench in the center of the U. And just in front of the counselor's bench, you have the guest presenters table, and that's where Sarcoides is sitting. I think all of you as guests are sitting kind of in the gallery near the counselor, so you could speak to them if it becomes necessary. And you can also be recognized by the chancellor and speak of your own accord, because you are present by leave of the council, because you've been sponsored by Octavia and Vespian. So you were all in there by agreement. So I think we know what evidence each of you have that you can present. Let's first see with Regina. I want to hear how you did with your great grandmother to get her to present that thing. Were you able to do that? It sounds like we'd probably need to make a roll, because that's going to be a hard pill for her to swallow.
Yeah. So I probably just leap into it with good news. I got another vote for our side. Bad news. You're gonna have to retract a statement.
Okay. Roll plus sense. I think you're detailing a plan and their place in it. And let's hope this works out.
8.
All right. So I think you get it. And I think you're going to owe her a favor. This is just kind of humiliating. So I think this is the favor she's going to ultimately ask, and we won't get to it. But she knows this nice boy that she really thinks you should meet, and that's her favor. And she has done this before, and it's never worked out. Like, she has absolutely no idea if you would be interested in people at all in that way, or who you would be interested in. Like, she just seems to have a complete disconnect with whether or not that should ever work out. But she always wants to push things in that direction. So I think that's what she's going to ultimately ask. And if you nod in grudging agreement, like, she will grudgingly write this letter and we'll hand it to him.
Yeah, deal.
Okay, so I think you've got 3 solids on your side. The other side has lost one of theirs. Okay, so Odell, what do you think you're able to offer Fargazer that is going to nudge him into getting into siding with what you guys suggest?
He wants the Overlord wants the portal technology, right?
Right.
There's got to be a way to sabotage the portal technology.
Okay, I think, and I think probably Regina would probably have an idea to do that, and I think I think maybe you guys we can have a situation where you have figured out a way to possibly do that. And I'll let Regina kind of describe how they have to do that. If it comes down to that, if that's what happens, if the council doesn't go your way, then that might be what you want to do. Okay. So Regina, be thinking about that and how you would go about sabotaging the portal technology if the council goes badly. All right, and let's see, Dapperdew and Hamfast, I think you guys are in a situation where I think you would have information you would need to present directly to the council.
Oh boy.
So
Yeah.
Let's. I think we're going to see Dapper do his presentation first, because that's the hardest evidence I think you've got that something untoward has been happening.
Yeah, yeah. So like, for all his bravado, Dapper's a little nervous about appearing in front of a whole council. So he's to dress up a little bit. He's like sprouted to like little like fungal fronds that are like right at his neck to like be a little bow tie basically. So he's looking a little more formal that way, and he's got Princess with him as he's saying, esteemed ladies and gentle dwarves of the council. It brings me no pleasure to explain the perfidy that this sniveling little mushroom scientist has practiced upon you in infecting you with spores to influence your minds and sway you towards the Overlord. Princess, that's your cue. And then, Princess does her thing.
And I think we get
leftover fungal spores there that Dapper had collected from the fallen gun dwarf.
I think you see like the Sarcoides kind of eyes get wide for a second, that like you caught on to that, and then he narrows them in sort of anger. Now, I think right now you're going to be. This is going to be you rolling to. There's a couple of ways we can do this. Sarcoides is present. He's a general, so you've got to deal with him. He is a threat to the world.
Yeah.
So anything directly against him, you have to pay a price for. And he has a particular special move that requires you directly to pay a price if you take a position against one of his arguments. He has a stat and a threat called the Purpleless Prose. So if you're making an argument against him or his ideas, you have to pay a price for that. You're not finishing him or anything like that, but you are moving against him directly in public with him present.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to have to pay a price. Here's the other thing. Be ready to roll in despair, because he has the broken eye of the Overlord.
Oof.
Which embodies the Overlord's terrible gaze. Anytime you're face to face with him, you're rolling in despair.
So, is it possible that what I'm doing right now is keeping him busy? I am presenting an argument against him, but I may know that I'm just kind of keeping him busy and hoping my fellowship finds some way to possibly finish him with reasoned argument, which is a way you can finish someone.
Indeed.
But is it all right if I make this role as a keep them busy?
I think that will work very well. You're sort of throwing stuff out, and he's like, for him to counter, like he would have to get up and focus on you directly. So,
am I right that I have to pay two prices then, because he's a threat to the world and because I'm countering his argument?
Yes, that particular threat. So
yeah.
Now
I'm marking Grace. I'm clearly a little flummoxed and embarrassed, in this scene, and I'm going to mark one of Princess's stats, loyal, because it's really her loyalty that leads her to help me even in this high stakes situation, and I'm sure that a living fungal undead wolf is also not happy about being in close proximity to a mushroom scientist.
Definitely.
All right, I've paid two prices. My only other question is: Does somebody want to help me somehow? And perhaps and if they do, will that cancel out the despair and have it be a flat roll on that?
It looks like Hamfast is raising a finger to offer possible assistance. Hamfast, are you offering assistance? You're muted, Pearl. We can't hear you.
There. So we're buddies, right? And also, like, some of my core moves include doing clever and sneaky things and keeping people busy. So there has to be some way I can sort of like pick up on what Dapper Do is up to and like either amplify it or do something that complements it.
Well, it could be a situation where you guys are sort of, I'm going to use a wrestling analogy, you're tag teaming things. Like, for the sort of roundabout talky argument bits, Hamfast is doing that. And for the actual evidence presentation, Dapperdo is doing that part. So it
That
could be
sounds like a good,
so
much better than the opposite would be.
it could be a situation where, I mean, and Alexi, I don't want to take away your decision out of this, but if y'all want to discuss how y'all would like to order these moves, like that's perfectly okay. If you want to switch up who rolls what, or decide, where you want to go with the way you present this part, that's cool.
If there's another way you'd like help, you can also tell me what that would be.
Yeah. Sorry. If so, would you're saying Hamfest be rolling something different here?
Well, no. What I was saying is like Hamfest, because you have a bond with Hamfest. Them assisting you in any way, shape, or form lets you counteract the despair.
Yeah.
So you'd do a straight roll. Like, so any help they give, however you describe it, lets you counteract the despair.
Great. Then I think Handfast I think if like Dapperdo gets tongue tied and then Handfast steps in to like spin a compelling yarn as halflings are so wont to do, that would work great for the help as far as help and push me over the top there. So I will with the help of Hamfast roll with courage and without despair to keep the mushroom scientist busy, and I rolled a 6 nonetheless.
Oh, okay. I think this first round here, you were attempting to keep them busy. Ooh, and I think what happens is they stand up. They stand up, and you've paid the prices. And I think here's what happens. Our general, Sarkoides, he nods at you, and he smiles as he looks up to the chancellor's desk, and he says, "Chancellor Starfall, how could you possibly entertain this farce? They have no proof where they obtained any of these things. It's simply them nattering and throwing things on a table that their pets have thrown up. It's absurd in an edifice, in an institution dedicated to learning and knowledge and science, that they would simply come here with this evidence." And Sarkoides activates his threat, Music of the Spores. He damages his Music of the Spore stat to turn any non-companion NPC in his immediate area against you. In this case, the Chancellor.
Oh no! Oh no!
And the Chancellor looks very, very, unfortunately, very receptive to his argument as he looks kind of disgusted at the wolf sort of doing that fungus trick. He's one of the people apparently that's just gross and unbecoming, and really you could have gotten that stuff from anywhere, obviously. So like you see him nodding and scowling down at you. Okay. So Odell, I think wait a second. There is, I think my window shrunk. There's Regina. Okay, Regina. The Chancellor is looking, unfortunately, not in your direction as far as this argument goes. Do you have a way that you want to throw in here to see if you can shift the tide a little? This is your element. These are your people.
I think I might just make like a big impassioned like you doubt this, but I've seen like the horrors of the Overlord and like their fungus stuff, and just bluster and passion and try to win them over that way.
Okay.
Hey, not all fungus, all right?
Okay. It sounds like would you consider this to be like an overcome? Basically, you're trying to overcome that threat that's been raised against your companions, or do you think this is you trying to perform some other situation like a
I was thinking talk sense, where I'm trying to impress or dazzle them.
Okay, if that's the way you want to go, I think that you can definitely do that. So that if you're going to impress or dazzle or trick them, you would roll that with grace. So roll plus grace.
Wow.
Okay. I would say well, technically you are in despair because you're having to roll in front of this guy.
Oh, okay. I'll re-roll with despair.
Well, no. Just here's what we're going to do. I'm going to let you keep those 2 dice because I think that's only fair. Roll me 1 additional die, and you have to take the worst 2 out of this mix. You got a 6 and a 5 already, so you need to roll 1 more die. So just do, and I'll do it for you here. It's a quick code. Your other die would be a 5. So you only you only roll a 10 plus whatever your grace stat is.
That'd be 13 then.
Yes, so you still succeed handily. I think hearing the impassioned speech, because usually the only time we have the dwarves have this sort of passionate speech, I think, is if they're really arguing about some obscure bit of science, and it gets very heated. But like having you like front up, and you're like, you're throwing all the details that you've come across with the overlords' tactics and what they've done, and how this evidence really figures in, and how this guy has been abusing the hospitality of the door, all kinds of everything you can throw in there against this guy. And I don't think he's ready for it. Like he was expecting this to be like him to be able to sort of subtly move things around, and you just caught him flat-footed with you jumping in. He expected the orc to just start throwing rhetorical punches, like that's what he was thinking of, that the orc was going to do. But the orc kind of got maybe a little tripped up with the public speaking part. And you jumping in there just threw him completely off his game, and he stumbles. And I think you guys have an advantage over him right now. After that, the council, like there are a lot of the counselors now are like looking at you and going and nodding in agreement, like with a lot of what you're saying. Like you've changed some minds in here, and it might be enough. And Sarcoides is completely off his game now. So seeing that, Odell, like you see that little mushroom guy, he's looking like he has been completely taken by surprise by Regina's impassioned speech. What do you think? What do you think you might want to try and do at this point to try and maybe, if you can, deal with him?
Yeah, that's an excellent question.
You do have advantage, so you could go for some version of finish him if you want to. You're in a rhetorical position to do that.
Yeah. I point out that the Overlord in their dealings with the different cultures here has never once just made a fair trade and then left them alone.
Okay, so I think if we're looking at our finish them, it sounds like you're looking to basically one or two things. It sounds like, and you tell me which direction you think you were going in. If you're forcing them to retreat and back off, then you roll plus courage. If you're trying to outsmart, terrify, or overwhelm them with your argument, you roll plus grace. If you're trying to show him the error, show Sarcoides in particular, or the council, the error of their ways, then you roll plus wisdom.
I think, much as I would like to roll the courage here, I think I'm trying to show the council the error of their ways.
Okay. All right. That's a
That they
roll
should
plus,
never have trusted this guy.
that's a roll plus wisdom. Normally with that situation, you would be rolling in despair, but I think Sarcoides is so off his game that he's not able to focus on you to kind of bring his terrible gaze object to bear on you. So
Okay.
you're just rolling straight up.
Nope.
Oh no. Oh, dang it. Okay. And I think what happens is the council is obviously turning your way after Regina's speech. And I think in response to your pointing out the obvious way that the Overlord deals with things, I think you see Sarcoides just sort of hunch back, and he just snarls and says, I tried to do this the easy way, but people won't listen. You never listen. I thought you were scientists. I thought you would understand, but you don't. You can't. You're too wrapped up in this nonsense. This farce. But you're going to see. And I think our Sarcoides grasps that something around his neck, which is the broken eye, and he utters some word that none of you have ever heard before, and you feel this rumble as the roof of the council chamber is lifted off, and the towering Overlord, if you want to take a look at your Roll20 sheet, you should be able to see the rough idea of how big the Overlord is in comparison with like a normal sized person. Like I've just shared that image on the Roll20 site. Can each of you see that in the middle of that Roll20 screen, the big giant robot thing? Okay.
Oh boy.
And you hear this horrible echoing voice, which I think only a couple of you have heard before, probably Hamfast, since they've directly confronted the Overlord and still have that terrible wound. And Dapperdew may have seen the Overlord at some point and heard this voice when the Mushroom Orc City was destroyed. He snarls down, "You have failed me, Sarcoides." And this massive, like junk constructed foot squashes Sarcoides. Sarcoides has a chance. Looks like he's about to try and argue, and then it's just like Godzilla meets Bambi kind of stomp. Just.
Hey, Odell, any of your possessions tingling in any sort of weird, way as the Overlord manifests?
Yeah, you do have something. What do you think it is that is going to turn this tide?
So I'm going to talk my way through this because I don't know exactly what it is. The Overlord has been after energy sources. Like the sapphire is basically an energy source, possibly the same kind of energy source as the Undersun and or the Undermoon. What if the Overlord's source of energy is like not compatible with surface sources of energy?
Ooh. Okay.
So,
Like you've got a battery on you somewhere.
Or like an old taser.
um,
I
I
like this.
have one of those like phone charge things. Like just it's not super powerful. It's one of those things that it's a solar panel that like goes on a backpack, and I've just like had it because it's useless down here. But the battery attached to it is charged. I haven't charged a phone because it's not like it gets a signal down here. But it's still got a charge.
Okay. The Overlord has 2 stats left. By presenting the Overlord's weakness and confronting them with it, you damage one of their stats. Right now, the Overlord has Terrible Gaze and Juggernaut. The Juggernaut is the tremendous physical power, like break walls, knock over buildings, that sort of thing. And the Terrible Gaze is that thing where if you're basically face to face with the Overlords, you're automatically rolling despair. So those are the 2 stats that the Overlord still has.
Damage the other one, because my turn has to be coming up, and I never roll with despair.
Okay.
But I could be juggernauted for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how this could possibly affect that one.
If it's a power source, I mean, you could just basically say it screws up the connectivity for all of his junk parts.
Yeah, that is kind of where I was going. It's trying to think of like how to use it. I guess is what I'm how to use it on him or them.
One of his legs is sticking down and still standing on top of what's left of Sarcoides.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's see. What have I have? You know what? I have the spear. Can I say it conducts electricity?
Yeah, I think we've presented before that it has like at least a metallic point.
Okay.
And it could be like a metal pole with a metal point on the end of it. I mean, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. That would explain why it hasn't been broken yet. Cool. So I hook up my little, battery charger to it, hoping it still has some charge, and just like heave the spear at like any kind of crack or crevice I can see in the Overlord's leg.
It's covered in cracks and crevices because he's basically a giant junk pile that moves around like a person. So, so you jab the spear in there. Are you throwing it or stabbing it? Like
I'm gonna run forward and stab because I cannot afford to throw.
Okay, all right. There's no roll here.
Okay.
You're presenting his weakness and you're confronting him with it, and he loses that stat. So, I think what happens is like you see this jolt of electricity, and the Overlord has that one sort of glowing eye like thing up in the top. And as you jab him, and you feel like a discharge, like you can feel it through there. So that sort of like minor shock that you might get if you accidentally accidentally shocked yourself with like static electricity or something. It's like, and like that the giant eye that's now gazing down upon you flickers and the Overlord starts to fall apart. Basically what ends up happening by the time it's done is the Overlord is now like a roughly human-sized pile of junk. He's probably about the same size as Dapper. Like he's a really big humanoid still, but he's not like an unstoppable Colossus, or an unstoppable Juggernaut anymore. The incredible physical strength and musculature of the Juggernaut attribute has been damaged. So you're confronting a roughly human-sized pile of junk. But it's still animate and still has a terrible gaze when it looks upon you, and it's still freaking unnerving. But right now, his junk pile has shrunk dramatically.
Odell, the gift you brought from the Overmoon. It has reduced the Overlord to the size that we can destroy them.
Okay, now here's the thing. With now that everybody is in actions against the Overlord, you have to pay a price for each action you take against the Overlord. For every active stat they still have, they have one active stat left. So you will pay one price for each action against the Overlord. So, I think Odell has taken the Overlord down to size, has laid them low in preparation for you. Who wants to? Who'd be in a position to take the next move? I think we kind of would look to Hamfast at this point, because I think it's come back around to you. That terrible wound the Overlord had left on you is now burning. Even in this reduced form, the Overlord still, that terrible gaze as it turns on you causes that old wound to burn.
Yeah, and I'm a hedonist. I don't like things that are hurty at all. So this is something that is going to get me pretty riled up. We'll start by yelling at the Overlord, like, "Ow, that still hurts, you jerk!" Just so he remembers who I am.
Okay.
And knows that he couldn't get rid of me with an acorn eye blast.
So let's see. Do you think by getting his attention, are you trying to keep him busy?
I was thinking of trying to do sting like a bee. Yeah.
Oh, that's the halfling version of keep them busy. Yes.
Yeah, it's basically just keep them busy, and you get extra options, right?
Yep, and I think you have another one that might build on that too, because he's still slightly bigger than regular human size. So as a halfling,
I'm smaller than a normal size, so.
Okay, you get your bonus for him being bigger than you.
Yes, and I get 2 options instead of 1 when I sting like a bee because of the kind of halfling I am. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to sting like a bee.
What does it look like? Like Hamfast is this fun-loving halfling going up against this terrifying junk monster. Like I want to know what the panels on the page are, right?
I intend. The thing is that I get multiple options depending on how I roll. So I figure I should figure out how many of them I get before describing them.
Okay, so when you roll that, I think you roll with courage. Is that right?
It's whatever the stat is for keep them busy. I'm just
That'd be
that's
courage.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
that's
I think
+2.
So it's plus you roll your dice with courage. You are you would normally roll with despair because of his terrible gaze, but because you have the courage of halflings, you never roll with despair when you roll with courage. So
I'm very mad. The whole time I'm just yelling, "Ow! Dang!"
Oh my goodness.
Seriously? Wait, did I hit the wrong one? Oh wait, I'm looking at Odell's. No, but I still failed. Yeah.
Oh goodness. Okay. Well, let's take.
How have I managed to not roll anything over like a 4 the whole game?
Well, okay. I think what happens here is like you get his attention, but it's not in a good keep them busy kind of way. Like he stares at you, and as he focuses on you, that wound burns even more. And I think you're going to have to pay a price here. Either damage one of your stats, or you can choose to pay a price through some of your equipment. If any of your equipment makes sense to avoid this situation.
I have a move to take other people's harm.
Oh, what do you do?
Well, I have 2, and I'm not sure which applies here. When you watch someone's back and keep your eyes peeled, you can roll to overcome any harm against them with sense, or I can just take when you wait. Oh no, I don't have to erase a bond. I'm with someone I have a bond with, and they take harm.
Okay.
So
Well, which direction do you want to take that? You could definitely try and overcome roll. I think you're in a position, given what you just did to the Overlord, to definitely interpose yourself. And
yeah, what effect would that have as opposed to?
well, I think if you make the overcome roll and you're successful, like there's no damage. Like you actually
Oh, cool, cool. Yeah,
you
I'll do it.
basically shove Hamfast behind something so the Overlord's eye isn't on directly on them anymore. That sort of thing.
Cool. Yeah, sure. Why not? I will try that.
Okay. Roll overcome. I think standard overcome is with blood, unless you have a move that
It
alters
is.
that.
I roll it with sense if
Okay.
I'm using this move.
There
So
you
like
go.
I see this coming, and so is this would I still roll with despair?
I think because you're getting into his line of sight to do this, I think you
Okay.
have to, yes.
No problem.
Well,
Hey.
even with despair, you protect your friends. So
Aw.
so you I think tell me what it looks like when you dive in and pull Hamfast out of the terrible gaze of the Overlord.
Yeah. I think I was absolutely expecting when I did this, like I'm right close and like junk is falling off. I expected to be crushed under this junk, or like at least that that eye would turn to me. And then I see Hamfast coming forward and realize that that's because like the reason he hasn't turned it on me is that he's about to turn it on Hamfast. And so that's where I'm right there. I'm already in between them. So all I have to do is like just sort of turn away from him toward Hamfast and push Hamfast out of the way.
Okay.
Thanks.
And I think because of the situation and because of how well you rolled, not only does Hamfast get out of the way, but you do too. Like basically you both end up behind something, I would guess, one of these tables. It might not be much.
Fallen piece of junk.
Yeah, it might not be much, but you're out of his direct gaze, so you're
Cool.
out of his line of sight. Okay, let's see. Let's come back around to Regina. Regina, you've seen this play out. What do you do?
Probably just going for explosives.
Explosives are always a good answer. So how do you want to do this? Are you using the explosives as kind of a keep them busy sort of thing to set up somebody else, or what do you think?
If that makes the most sense. I was just thinking, one of my companions has that like barrel of gunpowder and a rifle, so just roll the barrel at them and shoot it.
Okay, so because you're rolling against the Overlord, they still have one undamaged stat. You do have to pay a price. So are you sacrificing some of your explosives as the price that you're paying to act?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so roll keep them busy. The Overlord is not looking at you directly right now. They were focused on Odell, so you're not suffering from the despair thing right now. But once you draw their attention, you will be. So if you make this roll, anything else you roll after that while the Overlord's paying attention to only you will be in despair. So keep that in mind for later. All right, now we're rolling. Good job. On a 10 plus, you get their attention. And and you're basically, because of the explosives are throwing them off kilter. I think the Overlord's so used to being a huge colossus that taking explosives as a smaller mass is completely knocking them off their game right now. Like, so that's why they can't retaliate against you. They're not used to being small, and the explosives you're hitting them with are literally knocking them around this room, and they're not used to being knocked around by anything. So he's busy. Dapper, the Overlord has just been knocked around by a massive explosion done by Regina and their companions. What do you do?
Yeah, I think I say to Princess, well, girl, we tried to do this the civilized way, and we saw how that worked. We gotta get back to our roots. We gotta fix this the way that'll work, the way that'll count, it's time to eat the Overlord. And so like with Princess at my side, I'm charging forward, like through the explosions, smashing like the bits of junk aside with axes just to get close enough to like chomp down on some of that junk that's still making up the Overlord and start biting through and digesting the pieces of metal that are part of their strange body.
Okay, so it sounds like you're rolling for a finish then.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you have to pay a price. So what price are you paying to take this action against the Overlord?
It's the final moments. So I think Princess.
Okay, so does Princess have any more stats to mark?
No, she does not.
Okay, so she is giving it her all.
Yeah, I think she's gonna like basically kind of come to pieces as we do this, right? And the like fungus from her will like have to like extend out of her and like move on to the Overlord to try to help, but that'll mean that like those wolf bones just kind of clatter to the ground, empty and silent, as like a like single weird little fungus tear kind of like bubbles from Dapperdoo's eye as he's just chomping away trying to eat the Overlord here.
Okay, now because you're getting face to face with the Overlord to do this, to basically finish them off, you would be rolling in despair normally. Does anyone else want to offer some sort of assistance at this page? Like the setup from the explosions makes it possible to actually finish the Overlord. Like that possibility is now opened up.
I want to help out.
Okay. All right. You have a bond.
I feel like I'm, in my mind, Dapperdoo's sort of like little sidekick, whether Dapperdoo considers that to be the case or not, like Hamfast does. So let's see, what can I do? I don't know that I have like a specific. Ooh, maybe I can use the little folk to do something clever or sneaky when no one is looking. So while Dapperdoo is eating and Princess is doing things, I'm going to sneak around back, and even though it's going to hurt a lot, where the junk's already coming apart, I'm going to see where I can like unscrew things or like otherwise loosen bolts, whatever, like make it easier for the parts to come off to be eaten.
Okay, I think that's reasonable. You're doing like basically you shrink down and you're taking like little screws and stuff and just throwing them out. Like every little piece you can get a hold of, you're throwing them out of there. Okay.
Yeah, we'll assume I've lived in a shoe to kind of like be very hard to see, and that he's focused at the moment on Dapperdoo, but he can turn and focus on me, and then,
I think that works.
My courage thing will work, and Dapperdoo's won't be despairing.
Okay, Dapperdoo, you are operating without despair now. So.
All right. And I think I'm rolling blood here based on my method of finishing them.
I don't see how you couldn't roll blood with that. I mean, you could be trying to terrify them, but it sounds like you're actually trying to eat them. So.
Time to eat the Overlord.
Yeah.
It works. Okay. So
you hear like the very, very like tiniest, most high pitch, like from underneath the Overlord somewhere.
So we know what Princess did to basically do her final thing on the Overlord. Spreads that sort of that fungal web out, and the Overlord is just caught and can't really do anything to act against you as you start your end of things. Dapperdoo, what exactly does it look like as you're finishing off the Overlord?
Oh wow, yeah, I think I say like between like chompy metal bite, and like I'm still like wielding two axes, and like grappling with the like bits of junk that are being like directed towards me to try to like knock me off as I'm doing this, but like I'm chomping away and saying kind of with my mouth full, Palinduan, I know, jealous of the power of the orcs, but guess what? Now you'll get to be an orc too. Get in my belly! As I just am shoveling bits of this, junk golem into my mouth here.
Oh, okay. And I think like as I think as the Council Emeritus sort of like looks on in like part fascination, part horror, part like at least some of them are like, holy crap, we just beat the Overlord here in the Dwarven capital city. I think after all of that is done, we see we see like the last piece of the Overlord, which is this sort of flickering. It looks almost like, now that it's outside of that Overlord bulk, it looks almost like a little miniature television screen, like one of those old school like cathode ray tube portable televisions. You remember those? They weighed like 20 or 30 pounds and were about the size of a briefcase. And I think you see this sort of like blip, and it's a small picture of a, is it a hand? It's not. It's some sort of glove, and the picture flickers, and you see that glove just sort of like fade, like one of those old, how you turned off one of those old televisions and the image sort of stayed for a little while and just slowly faded back. Like that's what it looks like happens. And you hear a sort of a muttering. I tried. And almost like he was calling out to someone or something. And then you eat the television, and then it's all gone. That is the eyes of the Underlord. And I appreciate you all playing, and we're going to, if folks have time, I'd love to give each of you a chance to do like a quick epilogue for your part of the fellowship, or any other thing you want to throw into the epilogue. And does anybody have to go right now, or does anybody have time? Everybody good? Okay. Let's kind of go through. We've got I think I want to hear from Regina first. Like the dwarves are obviously going to be the first to receive the news that their city was the site of the Overlord's great defeat. Like what do we see on Regina's end and the end of the dwarves as they come to this realization that they are the ultimate, they are the final battle in this Overlord conflict, and it was their city that was the site of his final defeat?
They're probably swarming the wreckage of the Overlord's body, trying to, salvage as much as they can while they can. Block off the battlefield, just, research and examine everything.
Oh, yes, and nothing bad will ever come of that, I'm sure.
No.
So, okay. And let's go to Hamfast. What in the aftermath of that? I think that wound, that wound, just fades into just like a birthmarky spot. It's no longer like a painful welt anymore. I think it's just more like it's still, there's a memory of a wound now instead of an actual scar, kind of thing. What do we see from Hamfast and Roo?
I think now that all I can think of is Junk Thanos, I cannot remember the actual thing we were fighting. The Overlord, now that he's been dispatched, Roo will just sort of come over, because that's what Roo does. And I've already given my battle cry, so I won't do that again. But I will sort of turn to Dapper Do and just say, I'll get out my, I have a halfling lunch pack. You're like, that was a doozy. Made me kind of hungry watching. I know a falafel place up the corner. You feel like getting some falafel?
I like wipe a little, bit of like iron shavings off of my mouth, and I'm like, "Nah, I'm good for a while, I think." Did you want a bit of the Overlord? I didn't want to be greedy, and I like hold out like a little like screw or something that came off of the Overlord while I was busy chomping away.
I'm good. I've got my halfling lunch, but what do you say after this we hit the road in search of adventure and, falafel comes in its time.
I would be honored to adventure again with you, Hamfast Cobbles.
And I with you, Jack Purdue. I can't say her last name because then it wouldn't rhyme anymore.
Okay, and let's see, Odell, what do we see on Odell's end as we as the curtain sort of closes? What's the final few panels of Odell as we come to the realization that this particular fight, at least, ended well?
I think we see Odell kind of quietly sneaking away from the chaos as like as soon as the Overlord is eaten, or at least the part that was still animate is eaten. Like as soon as it's pretty clear that we've won. Yeah, I think Odell kind of does a disappearing act, sneaks out, and yeah, I think that's the panel. Like just like quietly leaving.
Is it like a quiet sort of like David Banner walking away at the end of the Incredible Hulk TV episodes kind of walk away, or is it like, does it have like a sinister backdrop?
I think it's just that I think that basically they're leaving before the cops get here.
Okay. So it's not like they're disappearing into the sunset. They're just like, I don't want to have to explain any of this.
Right. Yeah. They just don't want the attention of anybody. Like, it was bad enough that we had to appear before the council, and like now we've done this big thing, and I just don't want to deal with that.
Yeah. That council like room
reflects, Odell, a true hero. They brought the Denizen of the Overmoon down here to overthrow this threat, and then too humble to accept praise and adulation, slipped away. Do not worry, Prophet.
To deal with the
you
aftermath.
Will not be forgotten among the orcs.
Yeah, that council room maybe was just a little too uncomfortably like a courtroom with that raised bench in the front.
And like I said, that was bad enough, and now it's suddenly become this huge center of attention, and everybody's coming to see what's going on. Like, that's I don't want to deal with that. Let somebody else.
Are they going to ask you guys to help clean up all this giant pile of junk? Like, I mean, you don't want to have to be a part of that mess. That's
yeah, exactly.
Okay, and Regina specifically, we've talked about what the dwarves in general are doing. What do we see from Regina as our panels close out?
I'm probably working with them, trying to inject some reasonable caution into the research. And yeah, I'm the voice of reason now.
Okay, so I think we see that our final panel closes out with all of you in your respective pursuits. Like there's like a big half-page splash, I think, for each of you as your final actions are taken. And
can I nab an epilogue too?
Oh yeah, sorry. I had you talked about the overmoon. I thought that might have been part of it. Sorry about that. Yes.
Oh, no worries. I've been injecting little bits in, but I think there is another one of these panels that shows, like some months later, right after further adventures with Hamfast, Dapperdew has returned to what's left of the Orcish people, to rally them. And we see him standing, like raising an axe and saying, "It was not just for me that I consumed the Overlord, but together, as orcs, we have proven that no one can bring us down, not even the dastardly Undermoon. And so, we do this not because it is easy, but because it is hard, and it must be done." As the orcs wheel out a giant junk cannon they have created, and like at the very top of the junk cannon is Princess's skull, right? Like kind of like placed, as like a sort of a mascot, right? As they start, turning the junk cannon to aim it towards the Undermoon, and Dapperdew, puts a hand on the cannon and says, "It's just like the Prophet Odell would have wanted. The Undermoon will never see us coming."
You see, if it were a comic, like in the really tiniest lettering possible, a little asterisk over like a pocket or something, and then on the bottom of the page, "Cuckoo-cuckoo."
Now, if I'm understanding that right, was that Dapperdew climbing on top of the thing that was being catapulted at the Undermoon, or was he just launching a kit, basically, effectively a junk cannonball at it?
No, I think we're gonna launch orcs at the Undermoon to destroy it and to fight it, really.
I wanted to make sure I had that panel right in my head because that's awesome. Okay.
Orcs and one tiny stowaway halfling.
Yeah. Okay. So everybody, I appreciate all of you being here for this whole game, and I appreciate you, Pearl, for being able to come in and first and last. I think we managed to do what I was worried we might not get to, which was actually get that final confrontation in with the Overlord. But it worked out. The Fellowship, like I think one of y'all pointed out before, it's designed to kind of be run for a lot longer than this. But I was glad we were able to sort of push things along to get to that final resolution. And I appreciate all of you coming along with me, and look forward to gaming with you guys again. And does anybody have anything else they would like to add before we wrap the recording?
Great playing with y'all. This has been super fun.
Sorry I missed so much, but I'm really happy to be here for the ending.
It was a good one. Good night, everybody. And